Hey guys, welcome back. So this weekend I saw A Haunting in Venice. So that's our big review today. Ooh, just kidding. This is not really a scary movie. So A Haunting in Venice is the third installment to this film series based off Agatha Christie's novels. Though actually what's interesting is that this is actually the first film in this series that actually wasn't the same name that was used for the novel was not used for the movie. So the movie's called A Haunting in Venice, but the novel's name is actually called Halloween Party. So, I found that kind of interesting because the other two, Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, both went by the same name. Kenneth Branagh has also returned, first of all, as our main star, the world-class detective Hercule Poirot, and also he's the one who directed this movie. Then he also directed the other two as well. So, you don't get that often. You don't get the thing often where you get the main actor is also the one who is directing our movie. So, that's not a common thing you see nowadays, and maybe that's why these movies did so well. And when I say they did well, they did well for what they are. Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile, they were both like, the focal point was the big reveal. That was the main focal point of the movie. Everything else was just build up. And sometimes the build-ups made you kind of feel like uninterested. It was like the focal point was that murder mystery, and the big reveal. That's what kept the audience there. Other than that, you're just sitting there waiting. So, it's very old-fashioned noir detective movie is what both those movies were. Although I stand by with Haunting in Venice saying that it's good for what it was, it has its own little niche. Like a niche that the other two didn't have. The other two were just, like I said, classic noir detective work. This one it turns into that and kind of starts off like that, but it adds the paranormal factor to it. So, that right there also add a little interesting niche to it that the other two don't have. As we know from the trailer, Haunting in Venice is basically about Hercule Poirot being invited to a seance to try and debunk this medium who supposedly can speak to the dead. And of course, there's a murder that happens, and of course, it starts off as the murder mystery. Well, more so it becomes the murder mystery, where mainly he's like going there to just try and use his skills to just say that this is all fake. But the interesting factor is that when the murder happens, it's interesting to see him try and use his skills to rationalize the paranormal that's going on in this haunted house where they're at. When the murder happens, of course, Hercule Poirot goes into like his normal detective work. No one's leaving until I find out who killed this person. And as the story goes on, he's doing his detective work, but he's also seeing things as the investigation goes on, and you start to think, like, is this real? Is it not real? It's like you're seeing a guy who's so strict to logic and investigation with seeing with only he can see, and then he starts seeing things. Like, how is he able to explain this? There is not really a rationalization he can give when it comes to the paranormal, yet somehow he is sticking to his investigative work, saying that there's got to be a rational explanation for this. There is no paranormal, there is no ghosts, there is no spirits. It's got to be something rational here. Also, really great cinematography was done in this film. This film was taking place, of course, in a 2-3-story house on the water in Venice, Italy. But, with the way with these close claustrophobic shots that they were doing in the film, it actually made the setting a lot smaller than it actually was. And of course, as we get to further and further closer to the climax of the movie, you can actually feel like the walls closing in on you. So great cinematography was done to really capitalize on the story here. Another great thing about this movie is that it didn't feel stretched or rushed. It was like in that perfect threshold of runtime when it comes to movies. Like, don't be shorter than this, but don't be longer than this either. Just stay in this box right here. The movie was 103 minutes, though it felt like 95 in my opinion. But however long this movie was, it was like right where it needs to be. Overall, I thought A Haunting in Venice was actually a pretty solid movie. Really good detective film. I'm going to give A Haunting in Venice a B. Very solid movie. Though, I will say this. If you're not really into these classic detective movies or, movies with that noir feeling, then this may not be a film for you because you may not like it. It may kind of bore you a little bit. So I'm just saying that if you're not into this kind of genre of film, then maybe you might not want to see it. Okay, so if you've seen this film, please comment here down below what your thoughts were on A Haunting in Venice. Also, if you like my other videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.